It's like a clap as they come on. Yay for existing. Cool. So 2 Academy people.
Malky,
DNA.
hi Malky.
We already did here.
No. Samsul, hi.
And him. That's fine. That's fine. You can do it.
Akila, Jenny, welcome. Welcome to Consensus San Francisco.
Ah, is that you at the office there?
I am.
How is it?
Good. Rainy, but good.
A rainy office. I should probably invest in that.
Probably. Simone, Sam, Jenny. Exciting.
So exciting. Hi. Great. Okay. I know that a few people couldn't make it because of the timing. I'm expecting Brian. I'm just going to check the calendar invite. I did have about 25 bounce back emails, maybe 30. So a little moment of sadness there as I reflected on why that would be. Okay. So we have 20 saying they're coming. But we can just begin.
I can just go pop out the door and see. I know that Kevin's here. Just be right back. That's what's great about being in the office. I can just go and tap people on the shoulder.
Frank's joined. Okay, we might just, hi Sam, see a few more faces flooding in as this call goes on. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our first alumni call of people who have been in Self-Organization 101 and also a couple of you from Team Foundations. So the purpose of this call is kind of threefold. We just want to see if we can continue the connection a bit, create a space for further growth and learning, and also focus on key challenges that some or maybe many of you are facing. So yeah, we're trying to kind of uncover if there's actually value in a recurring alumni call, and if so, what could we do together? So in the past, people have done things, like just sharing, reflecting, peer coaching, comparing practices from different teams and spokes and circles. Hey, we did this amazing exercise where we designed our own role-making process based on X, Y, and Z. I really wanted to share it, so you could come back and do that in an alumni call. Even focusing on ecosystem level pain points. So it's one thing to be like, yeah, I'm personally working on this tension in myself. I'm having this trigger point. And on my team is facing a problem around conflict resolution, but also asking the questions, what are our ecosystem level mesh-wide pain points? And can this group of people do anything about them? We could do, some more deliberate personal development. We could interview an expert. So any of those things are options. But yeah, where we'll start is just to, of course, do a check-in. We'll start, with some positivity, and then Josh, Susan, and I will do a really speedy recap of some things we've been noticing around how self-organization is taking off in the mesh from what we've heard from you. And then we'll move into a 1, 2, 4 all to just have a bit of a conversation about what's still really challenging or what's challenging for you personally. And I'll have some quite explicit instructions for that. And that will bring us back together, and we'll try to harvest some of those patterns. So the check-in question is, so just to make sure we're all familiar with each other, I think most of us know each other, but just your name, your circle or spoke, a quick comment on how you are, and then what is one concept from self-organization that's helping you go around your day-to-day work. And do we have any new faces? No. Okay, some people still might join. So I'll just let you think about that for 30 seconds. You can all smile at each other. And then I will ask someone to ping and go first. And Susan, did you just put another reminder in the dojo? Just cool, thank you.
I can start.
Please.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh. I'm on Academy. And something that I've really taken to heart from this program is like being sure to set aside time for self-organizing. It's something like if I don't set aside time for it, it's easy to forget and like maintain these personal relationships because I'm totally remote. So I've set up individual one-on-one syncs with everybody on my team. And it's been super helpful just to build relationships. And when I need to ask for something, it's really easy. So, yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Who's next?
Go next. My name is Malky. I work on the DNA team. And I think the biggest takeaway or biggest thing that I've used since being introduced to a lot of the self-organizing concepts for me has to be the proposals. I think it's the language around it. So not just the artifact itself, but I learned almost right away that the way that language, it's such a simple thing, the language around it eases so much tension on the, it takes the personal out of it when you're using that language. So that's been great.
Awesome. Language of proposals. Thank you.
I can go next. I guess
Please.
one from the Liquality spoke. And yeah, one thing that we took away was just the kind of like self-organizing and team health check that we put together. And we use it every month. We kind of like come back to it as a survey for the team. And we have it as part of our OKRs, our objectives and goals. We have kind of like team health as one of the things we're measuring, which has helped significantly.
Great, thank you, Simon. And Brian's joined. We're just checking in, Brian. Yes, and Samsul, please go ahead.
Yeah, great. So, hi everyone, I'm Samsul. So I'm based in Dubai in the solutions team. I think one of the big takeaways for me was from the SOAlum1 was around making implicit agreements explicit and the social contracts. So I think that's really helped a lot. We've put that into practice in a number of the teams that we've been working with. I think I think that was one of the big takeaways.
Great, thank you. And also, if you want to comment very quickly on how you are right now, that's also welcome. Thanks, Samsul. Who's next? Sam, go ahead.
Hi guys, I'm Sam. I'm from Project DNA and the internal communications team. I'm doing okay today. I think Mercury is in retrograde and I'm definitely feeling the energetic effects of it. But I'm sitting right next to a very empathetic, cute dog at Bogart. And I think the concept of micro practices and many different micro practices that I've learned just kind of through osmosis of working with all of the amazing people from Inspiral have just integrated into my work life, everything from being much more self-aware to learning about how to effectively communicate your needs and to be able to pick up on your teammates' needs just make being able to lead projects and make impact in the company a lot more smooth. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam.
Oh, and I nominate Frank.
Okay. My name is Frank. I'm part of the Customer Success Circle. I'm doing pretty well. I've been trying to cut off coffee and it's been been a little bit stressful, and I'm really tired right now, but I'm glad I'm here. One thing that's been helping me so far is listening, this listening skills that we learned during SO101, and being present during meetings, making sure I can capture all the information from the meetings. I nominate Tom.
Thanks, Rick. Hi, I'm Tom. I am from Academy, doing really well today. I think to sort of build upon what Frank said, with listening, I think another part of that was being able to listen and then give feedback. I think in SO101, we were put in some really like give feedback right now to this person position, which kind of ripped the Band-Aid off of saying, here's someone that, you know, you've only been in this class with, and you're giving feedback to them, like people that you have working relationships with. You can lean into that and start to give them feedback. And that's been really good to do. I'll nominate Akila.
Hey everyone, my name is Akila. I'm part of Pegasus. I actually knocked out after lunch, which was interesting. But I came back from like Austin, like South by on Sunday or Monday morning at 2 a.m. So that's probably why. And one concept from Self-Organizing 101 that I've been thinking about a lot is feedback. And my team has been, we're incorporating like a retro to our team, which is interesting because we're actually an R&D team, so we don't have like agile practices besides that. And I will nominate Mary.
Hi everyone, I'm Mary and I'm on the DNA team as well as internal comms team with Samantha and Susan, Malky are all here. And yeah, I'm doing well today. I had the pleasure of working in person with Susan yesterday and spending time with her last night. So I feel like really lucky and blessed. So yeah, feeling good. Art, I think the concept from SO101 that's really been something that I've been leaning into is that active listening on our team. And you know, I have a bad habit of interrupting. So I've really been trying to consciously practice active listening and notice when I'm ready to jump in and interrupt someone and try not to do that. That's just a personal practice that I've been you know, trying to get better at. So that's me. Oh,
Beautiful.
and thanks, Kate. Let's see, who have we heard from? Jenny? Hi.
Hey, I'm Jenny. I'm on the MetaMask team. I'm doing great today. And what am I talking about? Something SO or TF that I'm thinking about my day-to-day. I think asynchronous communication. I'm in Hawaii right now, which is a shitty time zone for my team. So trying to get better at that. But it's great to be in Hawaii. I will nominate Brian. It looks like you're on the move, though.
Yeah, no problem. As long as the audio is fine. I'm Brian. I'm on the SOAlum team. And I'm showing up in transit. I've had awesome interactions today with some of my team, some design work together, a lot of different skill sets in the room, and that was really invigorating. But for some strange reason, I have anxiety underneath in my chest that I woke up. I'm going to blame it on Mercury in retrograde because it does affect me too, Sam. And something I'm leaning into is giving tough feedback. And really lean into it and doing it compassionately and in a timely manner is something I always cared about, and I even sometimes talk to others about in a coaching scenario. And I'm just really trying to make sure that I'm also living that. And SO101 really helped me think more and more about that in my day-to-day. So thanks. I can't see who to nominate with the mobile view, so if it'd be great.
That's all good. I got it. Thanks, Brian. Kiba.
Hey guys, my name's Kiba. I'm on the Digital Experiences Circle, which is part of the brand design team in Catalyst. And right now I'm doing pretty well. I just got off a call with my team as well, just did a stand-up, and we're starting some new projects for that kind of came up with on our own for consensus. So that's going really well, the planning stage of that. And one concept from SO101 that I really enjoyed, I've been applying a lot, is how you like managing the different roles on our team and like how we communicate with responsibilities, because there's only 2 people on our team, and we're both developers and project managers and product managers and kind of everything at the same time. So as we're creating new projects, it's been really helpful communicating like what exactly each of us are responsible for.
Awesome. There's no chance we can see your face, Kiba?
Right now I'm in Tokyo right now, so it's like 3 a.m.
Oh
so
no.
Very dark, but I can, yeah.
Okay, just turn it off whenever you feel. That is commitment, Kiba. 3 a.m. Whew. Okay. Joshua, would you like to check in?
Yeah, Joshua. So working with Kate and Susan and running the Team Foundations courses. I am early morning in Wellington, which is lovely to get up before the sun. And I am looking forward. This is the only meeting I have today, so it's just a full day of writing and producing things. And I think the practice that's standing up for me, there's like 3 or 4 of them which I'm really starting to hone in on. But I'd say like the pigs and chickens thing, and looking at the context of context themes and who should be involved and who shouldn't, and how to make that decision. That's kind of where my interest is at the moment. And I'll go with Susan.
Thanks, JV. I'm in the Consensus San Francisco office today. I haven't been here for a couple of days. Had great privilege of hanging out with Mary and her 3 amazing sons and 2 dogs last night after a full Q2 planning day yesterday, and then another day of that today. Feeling really energized. Mercury doesn't seem to be impacting me, thankfully. I don't know why. Also just left a week of training with Lisa in Seattle last week. So nice to see you again on the other side of the world. Gosh, what practice have I been considering most recently? I think what's coming up for me most strongly is what Samantha shared about micro practices and how when micro practices become embodied, I really do think it's changed my capacity and my joy at work. So just really curious about how we can regularly practice, because I know it's changed my life. Lisa.
How do I follow that? Yeah, my check-in is that, Susan said we were in Seattle last week, immersing ourselves in the world of liberating structures, and I'm really keen to integrate liberating structures into more Zoom calls and SO101. So I'm working with Susan and Kate and Joshua, for those of you who don't know me, but I think I know most of you. So I'm excited about that, and I've just been hosting my parents in Barcelona for the last few days, so they went this real world for a bit. And the practice that I think I'm really thinking about a lot lately is this idea of prototyping and always moving into action, like rather than talking about like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did this, or like, wouldn't it be cool if we could experiment with that or whatever, and actually being like, right, let's create an experiment. Like, how are we going to know if it works? When are we going to review it? So really sort of doing action-centered learning. That's something that I'm really prizing at the moment.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Is that everyone apart from me? Yes. Okay. I'm good. It's really early for me, and I, as my teammates know, don't really like the early morning. But once I'm on these calls, I'm like, it's great. So I'm like someone that, I don't know, overdoes things sometimes. So I'm using agreements way beyond what they should be used right now. I'll be like, Mum, can we please make an agreement not to talk to each other before 7:30 a.m.? And she's like, what are you talking about? So I'm like using agreements everywhere in my life, perhaps almost too much. So it was a nice check-in. Thank you all. So I think it's probably time to move into some participatory groups now, so we can actually start talking to each other. But before we do that, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on just the approach that we've tried to seed in consensus and with a bunch of you, which is coming out a lot in those check-ins, just as some framing to go into the 1, 2, 4 all. And as many of you will know, some of the kind of more tangible parts of the self-organization practice are continuing very much so in the mesh, and there'll be many circles and spokes kind of identifying, clarifying, ratifying their kind of core agreements over the next few months. So more information will be coming on that. So what we mean by that is, the whole, how do you make decisions in your circle or spoke? What are your agreements, your explicit agreements about how you work and how you change those decisions? How are you making clear your accountability, your commitments, roles, conflict resolution, on and offboarding, and values, vision, purpose? How do you communicate and how do you give feedback? So that's one aspect, the more tangible aspect of the practice of self-organization. But I'm super happy that so many of you reflect on the internal stuff, the internal practices around really what is it to listen at different levels rather than just the downloading and responding. Communicating with care for the other and surfacing your needs and boundaries. This constant practice of facilitation, which actually involves knowing how to be facilitated as well, which it's so nice to facilitate a group that knows how to be facilitated. We're all like playing this beautiful game together. Love that. So yeah, this focus on deliberate development, understanding your trigger points, actually trying to figure out where they come from, and moving into a bit of a partnership culture. Just a couple of any reflections from you quickly, Susan and Josh, before we move into this 1, 2, 4 all. Joshua, do you want to add to that at all?
I think the biggest thing I've been noticing in the different teams I've been working with is around the different things stick for different people. And I think the round we did before was quite indicative of it, which is there was some overlap, but there was more diversion going in different directions than overlap. And that might have been people offering different things rather than repeating each other. But I've seen that when I first started working with teams, it was like, here's a whole bunch of micro practices or patterns or ideas. And it was a fairly wide thing so that people can pick up and run with what works with them. The biggest thing I've been noticing over time is that there's a certain group where there's more bang for your buck. And that's the stuff I'm starting to narrow in on now. And so that learning around like pigs and chickens and who's involved and who's committed on things, that usually gets a lot of value for people quite quickly. Things about the decision-making process and how much to give people when they're trying to get to a decision-making process versus how much to let them figure out on their own is something that's starting to hone in on a little bit. I'm also finding that adult-to-adult relationship rather than adult-to-child relationship dynamics usually gets people value straight away, as well as attention economy things. And so there's probably like 6 or 7 concepts which I'm starting to say could be delivered in a faster, shorter, more succinct way. And then the bit that I'm questioning or leaning into is what's the motor of growth? For example, in education, often I think about how to help people just get really good at learning and to fall in love with learning. And if you do that, they'll be set. And you don't need very much time to help them do that. So I'm really curious about what the kicker or the starter of growth in growing a self-organizing practice in a community is. And so that's still on the edge of my learning, which I'm really curious about. And I think these calls are like one step. But I think the stuff we experiment with over the next few months in that direction will be super interesting and super valuable. So that's top of rounds what I've been noticing.
Thank you. Can you just say what pigs and chickens are, please?
In a bacon and egg breakfast, pigs are committed and chickens are interested. And so the idea that there are people with different levels of who are affected by different amounts when in decisions. There are people with different amounts of interest and so on. And when you start treating chickens like pigs, you have all sorts of mayhem. So one of the things just to think about in an individual task, project, team, who are the pigs, who are the chickens? And yesterday we started to have a really great conversation about like piglets as well. And they're like nearly pigs, but not quite. And also looking at who are the bumblebees who wander around lots of different teams. So I suspect there can probably be a few more animals added to the metaphor, which would give people just a really quick insight and some language to talk about it. So that is, it's an old idea. Most of the ideas that I use, they're borrowed from places or picked up by practice. And so that's,
okay. Cool. We'll see if that language takes off in the mesh. Should be interesting. Susan, really quickly.
Yeah, so a little bit different, a little bit the same. So we recently did a product review on the SO training, and there have been, I think, 34, 35 teams or spokes in the mesh that have participated on some level in either Team Foundations or SO101. And so looking around this room now, I really feel like we're the vanguard. We're like going to be the forcing function of the mesh to start to actually do what you're doing in terms of how you're impacting your teams and your relationships with other teams in the new way of Consensus 2.0. And I'm gonna give a special mention to Frank, right? So Frank's in the customer success team, right? When he first turned up on SO101, I felt like really shy, wasn't quite sure. And now I not only have seen him flourish as a human and as part of his team, but also been hearing from his circle leaders saying how much your energy has shifted and actually shifted what's possible for your circle. So I'm just feeling really strongly that that those of you who have kind of stepped forward into the breach and committed, really changing the mesh. So thank you.
Thanks, Susan. I wish we had more time to get more of your thoughts and reflections, but we'll just jump into a 1, 2, 4 all and do it there. So Susan, can you please be in charge of breakout rooms? Is that a yes?
That's a yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll do a 1 minute to think, 3 minutes in the 2s, and 5 to 5.5 minutes in the 4s, because I'm hacking the 1, 2, 4 all. I think it's too quick. And the check out, the question is, it's more about the challenges, or we've heard about some nice things about what's really sticking and what's entering your day-to-day practice, but let's go on the flip side and consider what you personally are struggling with in relation to how your team, circle, or spoke is operating. So please try to frame this, or you can just start talking about, if you could frame it in kind of a language of self-organizing, that would be helpful. I'll just explain a bit more about why. And so when you get into your 4s, please decide who will have the following roles. So we need someone to just take some notes for us. That's going to be super helpful for us to get back. So this is the pattern recognizer role. That will be, But then, so there's the note taker harvester role, and then there's the pattern recognizer role. So the person in the 4 who is listening for any patterns that emerge, and they're going to reflect it back to the whole group. So when you start on your 4s, just name the note taker harvester and who the pattern recognizer is going to be. That will share back to the whole group. And so please, that pattern holder, try to, if possible, use the framing and language of SO to try to communicate it to us in bullet point form, because I'm going to be capturing this on a board, and we'll be looking at it and kind of grouping different areas. So the quick and any clarification needed on that, I'm about to drop the question in. Oh, you already did it. There we go. Okay, so 1, 2, 4 all with those specific role instructions. Susan, take it away.
Are we going to let them have a minute to consider in their one?
Yeah. We'll all just do that and smile at each other.
Are you keeping time, Kate, or am I doing that too?
Yeah, could you do that too?
Okay, there's going to be one group of 3. Here you go.
Are we not doing 2s first? Oh yeah, with 1, 3. Got you, Susan.
Bye-bye.
Anya. Oh, that's okay. Great. So, just asking the pattern recognizer to share on behalf of your team, and I will try to capture them on some. I don't use Miro because I don't know how to use it, and I will learn. But I'm using Miro, which is another version. So, yeah, I'll be writing and trying to keep them nice and short. So, could the team? Who wants to go first? What are some patterns or
Yeah, I'm happy to go first.
Thank you.
So I think the biggest pattern that we identified, and it was pretty unanimous, was that there were some team members that had gone through SO101 or team foundations, and there were others that hadn't. And communicating the value of self-organization to those that hadn't is really difficult. Because on top of that, you're also, of course, in the heat of working in your own circle or spoke. And so there's definitely a culture clash between the ones that are kind of like have gone through the training and the ones that haven't. And it's really hard to pollinate that and spread that across new team members, especially, for those that have only gone through, SO101, which is relatively, let's say, basic as compared to having been your entire life in self-organization. Yeah, and on top of that, there might or might not be a culture clash, another clash with, trying to instill self-organization in team members that disagree with it plainly. And so not only is it difficult for team members to pollinate on others that do want to be more self-organizing, but other teams are facing kind of like a backlash against the self-organizing culture.
Okay.
So I'm happy to go next.
Very interesting. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think in terms of patterns, I relate a lot to what Simon said. So like we had a number of themes within the group, and they all really revolved around a lot of the learnings that we had in SO101 around feedback loops, active listening, dealing with difficult situations, being mindful of people, of the human beings while we're doing that. And I think what Simon said really resonates because I think there is this element of people that have done SO101 or come from a similar type of, or have lived and worked in similar type of environments, and those that haven't. And that's where the friction points is.
Did you talk in that group about any of the friction points? Could you share a couple?
So there was some about not having like great mechanisms in place for feedback. There was some about, let's call it like role definitions or redefinitions, and kind of like shadow hierarchies within these teams. But that I see all of that really coming out down to kind of like having these explicit agreements and having everybody participate and have the same understanding of the content of these agreements. And so if people have different different understandings of these agreements, I think, yeah, that's where you see like a clear distinction between people that have done that understand SOAlum1 and those that haven't.
Okay, thank you for that further clarification, Timsel. Really helpful. Okay, next team. Next pattern harvester.
I can go. I noticed two main patterns in our group. One is just taking the time to make team processes explicit, because we have a lot of teams have this implicit operating habits, and then taking the time to like make these explicit and also do the rest of your normal job is like, it can be hard. And then another pattern is just communication and the peer-to-peer communication, like adult to adult conversation as opposed to the parent-child relationship. I think that's common. Just most people coming from more traditional work environments, like you fall into these like expected roles, and it's easy to do that. So just you have to be constantly remembering to be in this adult to adult relationship or conversation.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you. Another team?
There should be one team left.
Is there? Yeah. Who's it?
No, maybe not. Maybe there was only 3 teams. Cool. Sorry about that.
Okay. So does someone just want to pick up one of let's say that major trend, that major pattern, the culture clash with only some team members having gone through it? Is anyone else noticing that, or moving from, as Tom said yesterday, it's a great feedback session on SO101, moving from pattern recognition and identification to trying to create some new ones? Is there anything that you're doing to cope with that culture clash?
I'm trying to actually see if I can support. So if other team members start coming to me because they've got some politics going on in their team, I've actually just been recommending that they get onto team fundamentals, because team fundamentals has been so kind of profound. It's created such a profound difference for us as a team. And so I'm trying to work it in the sense that I want to try and pollinate the smaller teams to actually jump onto team fundamentals. And then hopefully if we can pollinate enough teams, then at some point we can actually start to come together as sort of mini circles and have conversations around how we want to operate as a circle.
Okay. Thanks, Tanya. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I felt in a sense of moving from pattern recognition to being ready to create new patterns, I felt a strong willingness within sort of the local side of things, and there's a right balance occurring inside our spoke around, having some tough conversations and trying to pollinate new patterns, making some serious mistakes too, honestly, and not putting patterns in place fast enough, like the metaphor I put into the chat, and feeling that pain as a team and then trying to pick up again and solve that pain. But we're feeling it, so where I feel my current struggle is how much effort to apply to trying to pollinate patterns into teams we either must work with at certain points in time, or collaborate with, or have influence and authority in our ability to establish our patterns the way we wish to, particularly patterns that are tough, like we want to establish a pattern around how folks transition in and out of our team, or transition in and out of the mesh when they're operating inside our team. That's really, really important to us, but how do we approach that? And so that's a problem that I'm facing, and asking myself, how do I want to handle that?
Okay. There's a lot of really interesting challenges coming up. And I just wanted to, with the last 8 minutes of this call, just show you what I collected from that, with the intention of, if we're going to host another alumni call, how could this space be of use to confront some of these challenges, to come up with some, new patterns. And I'm wondering if there's some, sorry. Where has it gone? This is real-time board, which has just changed its name to Miro. And it's not actually that easy to use. So we have culture clash, as we just heard. Taking time to make things explicit and to do a normal job's hard. It's easy to slip into paradigms that aren't adult to adult. There's some friction point around shadow hierarchy, not having great explicit mechanisms for feedback, communicating the value of self-organization to those that haven't experienced Team Foundations or SOAlum1, or who actually just disagree. That's really difficult. This question of how do we pollinate new patterns into teams we must work with and who hold power. This different understandings of what things mean, agreements, role definitions, for example. So those are some of the things I captured, and I'm hoping that if we run another one of these in maybe 3 weeks, a month's time, that perhaps a couple of you might want to volunteer to work with me on that, on taking some of these challenges and coming up with a way we can work on them together for your other alumni. So we would just, all that would need is a couple of people, and then we just have a little call. We think about, we percolate on what the challenges we're seeing are, what our constraints are, and then we might just come up with a few ideas to take this alumni call forward. Is anyone feeling called to join this little task force, the alumni call task force, to work with me? Kiba's keen in the chat. Oh, we've got Tanya and Tom. Okay, great. We have our team. Brian's there too. Okay, team, that's it. No more, please. That's great. So I'll just set up a little channel for us, and we can just continue this conversation. That sounds amazing. Cool. So this was like our first alumni session. We did quite a lot in 1 hour, and there's lots more we could do. So let's just check out now very quickly. Susan, do you have a burning question that you want to use? Oh yeah, I have one actually, but so in my check-in I mentioned that I'm like, I have this thing of like using a term that I'm obsessed with on all the people around me, and I'm just curious if any of you have like a SO meme, like something that you've really taken on and you're using, on your mum, on your dog, in your life, and what that is. Mine is agreement. Can we please agree to do X, Y, Z? And they're like, yeah, we can agree. Susan?
I'm the sense-making queen.
Yeah, it's all about, can we do some sense-making on that? Thank you. Mary?
I could pick this up from Susan, but I'm like, naming the tension, naming my tension.
Oh yeah, naming the tension. Anyone else?
And mine would have to fit into my check-in as well, the proposal. So like, are you proposing this, or do you propose that? Yeah.
Awesome. Ryan.
For me, I often catch myself being the one saying, so what decision-making method are we using for this? I smell a decision coming.
Smell a decision. I'm going to use that. Thank you. Tanya, did I see your hand?
Yeah, mine has been, so if I'm hearing you right, you want to do this. Can I put your name by it, and what's the due date?
Accountability. Awesome. Tom.
Yeah, building off of that in the feedback, it's like, what commitment can I get from, what commitment can I get from you? What am I committing to, exploring that?
Yeah, nice. Who's next? Kiba.
I kind of like the accountability. I've been like, what's the expectation going into this relationship, and like, what are we both trying to get out of it, and also, what are like fundamental assumptions that we're making. So if I see that we're kind of like butting heads against something and we can't really figure out why, there's just some tension, I kind of go in like, what's the assumption that each of us are making and that we can resolve.
Nice. Thank you, Kiba. Frank.
I find myself saying a lot, can we hear from everyone else on how they feel about that? Or can we allow other people to share their ideas as well?
Fantastic. Thank you, Frank.
I think mine's +1 to Frank's. Give a voice to the silent ones.
Lovely. Thank you. Who hasn't gone? Josh?
I've been pushing have one-on-one meetings with everybody on your team, like get to know everybody on a personal level. So I tell everybody to do that.
Yeah. Great. Akila?
Mine would be, can we translate this into an action?
Awesome. Sam?
I think mine would be, well, first of all, I do a lot of this, like even in my home life, absolutely everywhere. And people are like, why are you doing jazz fingers? I'm like, it's a self-organization micro practice where if people are in conflict, I start talking about, well, I have all these micro practices and resources which I can, guide you to or talk to you about. And my immediate reaction when I hear a spoke or a circle or somebody is having all of these interpersonal stuff moves and they can't figure out, I'm like, yes, you should probably go to the Team Foundations course or join the SOAlum1 cohorts. So all the above.
Nice. Thank you. Jenny?
What I've been doing in my team is if it seems like some people want to experiment, I'll just say like, okay, I'm going to do a really shitty prototype or whatever. And then the one that I'm going to start using is pollinate new patterns. I like that a lot.
It was a good one. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Jenny. Joshua?
What I heard you say was also lots of sparkle pattern fingers. Well, the other one would be like take a Rumio for just voting.
That's a good one. Lisa?
Yeah, Susan stole mine. She put it in the chat. It's, I ask, what do you need a lot? It's a way of getting people to an action or to express a need.
Is that everyone?
Simone.
Yeah, I don't think
Simone.
so yeah, same as Joshua actually, taking the room and taking the temperature.
Wonderful. Okay. I'm going to start using all your patterns today. Thanks so much for joining us. That was really nice. And we'll be the task force. I've heard working groups isn't a thing that has taken off, is not a meme at Consensus. So we can come up with a new meme for our little group. And we'll let you know when we'll be meeting again.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
That was great.
Thank you.
Lovely to see everybody. See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, guys.